You'll never guess, he suddenly has a female companion. Lawyers are curious about her who shared his wealthy life, and Edward shrugs, saying Vivian's just a streetwalker. The lawyer laughed, hardly believing Edward could play so hard in private. Little did he know, this comment would lead Edward to regret it deeply afterward. The lawyer approached Vivian, promising to keep her secret, secretly plotting to have a little chat. Vivian agreed with her lips but rolled her eyes internally. Subtitles. Deep down, her emotions were as cold as a fridge, with her inner sadness building up and finally erupting once she arrived home. Vivian simply had no desire to listen to any explanations. Each explanation felt like a knife cutting her heart. She regretted getting into that car, now just wanting to escape. Edward took cash from his wallet, slapped it on the bed, left it there, not wanting his love to seem cheap. As the elevator doors opened, Edward chased after her, taking the opportunity to offer a sincere apology and pleading with her not to leave, as they could have a chat. I love it. Get off now. Vivian finally stayed, her cautious yet stubborn attitude showing. She lay on the bed, unabashedly recounting she reminisced about her wild tales with men and her hardships, using her warm sincerity to poke a hole in Edward's cold heart. Edward had a little boy inside him who had been hurt, so he decided to rent a $250,000 necklace for Vivian. He took her to a nightclub where the performer sang passionately. Edward saw tears flowing from a beautiful pair of eyes. He realized this woman had a warm heart, so he took the whole day off from work to study on the grass with Vivian. When she got back, she leaned on the bed and fell fast asleep. She sent a kiss with her finger, then broke her own rules by going for a real kiss. Vivian didn't stop. She realized she had completely fallen for Edward, while Edward seemed completely oblivious. Their deal was about to end, and Vivian had already packed her bags. Edward had set her up with an apartment and a car, so she wouldn't have to roam the streets anymore. Even with material wealth, she couldn't find happiness. She began telling Edward a story. Every time she made a mistake, her mom locked her in the attic. She imagined being a princess, saved by a knight, but in her dreams, no knight took the princess to an apartment. Obviously, she was hinting that Edward needed to be her Prince Charming. Just then, the lawyer's phone rang again. Moses' company's boss set an afternoon meeting, but changed it to morning. Now, she must leave, but wants Vivian to understand. Mid-meeting, Edward abruptly dismissed everyone, keeping just the boss and himself. He aimed not to buy Moses' company, but to help it weather the crisis. He no longer wanted to find his success in the destruction of others, so he handed the rest over to his lawyer. Upon learning of Edward's decision, the lawyer was furious, while Vivian had already packed her bags. The doorbell rang, and she reached out, ready to find an excuse to vent her frustration. Vivian, livid, struck back at the lawyer when Edward returned, not giving a care to their long-standing friendship. Edward utilized ice cubes to alleviate the swelling on Vivian's face. Following the brief application of the cold compress, Vivian decided to depart, bidding him good night and expressing her hope that she would receive a special gift. She said goodbye to the manager, who arranged for a driver to take her. As she was leaving, she glanced back occasionally. Edward stood by the window, waiting expectantly on the balcony for the other's appearance. But Vivian decided not to look back anymore. She felt a bit guilty, but wouldn't be a streetwalker again. She aimed to regain her dignity, leaving money for her friend, hoping they could both start anew. However, it wasn't easy to jump out of the low valley. Edward arranged to return the borrowed jewelry. The manager, noticing the gap between them, subtly reminded her that Vivian's place was on the way to the airport. Realizing a girl had entered her heart, she stopped the driver, bought a bunch of bright red roses on the roadside, saying goodbye to the red light district. Just then, a car honked outside. Edward drove up to pick up his princess, and she rushed up the escalator to the top. Two lonely souls found mutual salvation at this moment. True love is like a beautiful flower. The more barren the ground, the more. The movie drew to a close, titled From Sparrow to Phoenix. The sparrow symbolizes Vivian. The phoenix her change after meeting Edward. She was a loose woman, from society's bottom tier. Living in the red light district, Vivian spent day after day in that life. The red light district ruined her life, but also gave her a bright personality. Life that didn't have so many moral dilemmas. Keep alive by simple logic, interacting with many men, she sees through human hypocrisy. This made her cherish the beauty before her even more. Before meeting Vivian, Edward was dealing with the loss of his father. He appeared calm on the surface, but inside, he was turbulent, wrestling with his emotions until Vivian entered his life. This emotional tide surged forth like a flood. Both he and Vivian were lonely souls. It united them, destined to save one another. Vivian declined Edward's gifts, not equating love with money. In the past, she would have done anything for money, but she had changed. When she put on clean clothes, she could see respect in others' eyes instead of the disdain for her. Being with Edward enabled her to understand the sweetness of love. Money couldn't define her anymore. The manager was a good person. Though he saw through her tricks, he always helped her. In that upper-class society, she found her true self, no longer needing to put on an act for others.